Hey there, are you ready for high G? I'm Ken Sribnick, and welcome to the Unit 3 video of the Alto Recorder Lessons Project. Let's dive right into it and open to page 12. Notice that the number 4/4 time signatures on this page have been replaced by Cs, which stand for common time. 4/4 is the most common time in music. By the way, in number time signatures, the top number always says how many beats are in the coming measures, and the lower number says what kind of note gets the beat. From here on, I'll be using the note names used here in the States. A whole note is 4 beats, a half note is 2 beats, a quarter note is 1 beat. And in Eddie Bio, we stumbled upon half a beat each eighth notes. Eddie Bio also showed you another frequently found time signature, the waltz time 3/4. We'll be visiting 3/4 time again in this video. While we're at it, these are the correct names of the note parts. Composers and music editors can sometimes get artistic choosing flags or beams for eighth notes to say how they feel you should play. More individual sounding notes might get flags, and a flowing of notes might connect with a beam. And on a totally different topic, if you remember my mentioning the crotchet as the British name for a quarter note, I came across some genuine medieval crotchets with their hooks for your edification and entertainment. As we begin now, let's quickly review the techniques we're trying for in our drills. Play your drills at an even speed that you've decided upon. Decide where you're going to breathe. Toot crisp notes while looking directly at the note, and your inner voice saying in your head the note's name. Starting over is just more practice. Think of it as joyous and wonderful. And as always, you get to keep the skill that you've worked so hard to keep, that you've worked so hard for. We're making you a sight reader that can play through absolute fire. Enough. At the top of page 12, you see a high G where it sits, as always, on top of our music staff. The fingering diagram isn't quite enough. Read the author's notes in small print about only the thumb moving as you go from F to G and back, as well as not having hand movement when you go from F to E and back. The reason that they're mentioning that is the instrument is also supported by your right thumb underneath the instrument and by your lips. So you're free to make those finger and hand movements going back and forth. We need you to master the interval back and forths in drills 51 through 55. No metronomics like 50 beats per minute. You need to work on your finger movements while your body and brain program. Put your eyes on a note, move your fingering to that note, toot it, move your eyes onto the next note, move your fingers onto that one, and toot it, and so on. Move down each line, note after note. In time, your finger and hand movements will become smooth. When you're finished, perfect, in our usual way, line 55. It's like a flower opening up. The first two measures flow up and then down in a musical scale-like motion. And then there's what's called an arpeggio. Do, mi, so, mi, do. If these notes were played at the same time, they'd sound much like a chord on a guitar or a piano. You finish the line going down and then up in a scale-like motion again, and then finish with the same arpeggio's notes. These fingerings drill the notes right in the middle between your instrument's lower and upper registers. You'll be crossing back and forth here a great deal as you play more and more. They need to be as smooth as you can get them now. But remember, they will improve as you continue learning to play. Next, we need to do some eye training perfecting in 58. For newbies, a new musical thing appears here for the first time. The mighty repeat sign. This simple little two dots with a double bar can make even the strongest musician repeat pages and pages of music. Both of the ways it's usually employed are demonstrated in this little gavotte by the very famous early composer, Michael Pretorius. Your first repeat sign is at the end of the first line. Notice the two dots face back towards the music you've already played. It commands that you repeat that line from the beginning. After repeating it, you go on to play the second line to its end, where there's another repeat sign facing back. But this time, there's a repeat sign we passed over at the beginning of that line. Do you see it? We only go back to that earlier sign. They're being used like brackets to enclose whatever the composer wants repeated. Maybe a few measures, and maybe an entire movement. As to the gavotte, you should know that it's a dance developing pretty much during the Renaissance. It's an early French court dance based on an early folk dance that had the same name. Gavottes continue to be composed for us through later musical periods as well. Oh, and before I leave this passage, I'd like to quickly verbally count the second line for you, so you get the feel of the connected eighth notes, and to expose you to a little to how we sometimes analyze rhythm verbally that's new to us. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. The line is 1, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 3, 1 and 2 and 3. Repeating it. 1, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 3, 1 and 2 and 3. We'll be doing analysis like that to learn new music and to get out of trouble. In the future, we'll be doing a bit of that. Speaking of dances, by the way, the waltz, 3/4 time, is introduced in lines 60 through 63. These lines are similar to our drills 51 through 54, but with the new 3/4 time signature. You should have no problem with these lines, these drills, and your finger movements will continue to benefit from the additional workout. There is, though, more new stuff going on here. Line 60 has dotted notes. New rule. When a note gets a dot, it also gets its time lengthened by half of its original time. So if a half note is 2 beats, a dot adds 1 more beat to it. A dotted half note is 3 beats long. As you play dotted halves, let the little voice in your head count out the full 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 as you play. So many intermediate players playing with other musicians get lost on longer passages with longer notes, half notes like this, because they didn't learn to count the longer notes well. Lines 61 and 63 let you feel another rhythm pattern I want to point out that's common to 3-beat meters. Long, short, long, short, long, short, and so on. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. You're going to encounter that a lot, especially in dance music. The melodies of 68 and 69 are fun to play in an ABA form, a form very common in music. First, let's write something in. In the middle of 68's middle line is a half note with a breath mark. See it? Write the Italian word fine, F-I-N-E, over the half note. It means finish, as in. So we're going to play all of 68 and go immediately right into 69, and again, without missing a beat, go right back into 68 again, but stopping at the fine. And the reason we can play these two round and round like this is because they both follow a music theory rule you should know about. If a piece starts with a partial measure, see the 2/8 notes starting the piece? We subtract the value of those notes from the last measure of the piece. The rule is that both the first and last partial measures, when added together, must add up to a full measure, just like all the other measures, according to the time signature. Both of these melodies follow the rule, letting you play them round and round, A, B, A, allowing you to play them as a longer piece that avoids being boring because there's a melody change, something nice to the ear. I'm going to play this for you so that you have some sense of it. And I'm going to start it off the way I'll be starting you off all the time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. you can adjust the speed if you play along with that or however you use it. If you're in full screen in settings, you can change the speed faster and slower. Oh, I meant to mention, the translation of 68 in English is May Has Come. So it's a happy song. 69 translate to what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Which I guess is playful, so it's also happy. Okay, it's time for this unit's grand finale, he said, turning the page. On page 40, exercise 185, Pur Natus in Bethlehem. A child is born in Bethlehem. You now have the skills of Unit 3. Authors Berkhoff and Hetrick included this German duet from the 1500s, so you can play the upper voice, which is marked Unit 3. I overdubbed both voices in a recording at a fast speed at the opening of this lesson. Shoot for that speed someday, but not today. It's in 3/4 time. The starting and ending measures add up neatly to a full measure. That lets us repeat the piece smoothly 2 times through, putting more meat on it. And another new thing, there's a new symbol over the last note that's observed when we play it the second time. This is called a fermata, meaning hold in Italian. Young orchestra students are also told it's a bird's eye, meaning you look over your music stand at the conductor while holding that note beneath the fermata and only close that note with the conductor's baton. And as we used to say, under penalty of death. I'll count you in with 2 measures. Look up at me at the fermata and watch me because we're going to end together. Okay? Oh, by the way, also notice that you have the melody. I'm playing a more supporting voice. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2. Yeah. That's the lesson. Don't forget that you can change the speed of this piece in settings if you're in full screen. You can make it slower, you can make it faster according to your needs. Please don't beat up my student. Make sure you're having fun. I'll be here when you come back. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.